With the dawn of the fourth industrial revolution, the convergence of cutting-edge technologies and geospatial data is reshaping our world as we know it. In this era of innovation, Geo-AI, AR and VR, IoT, and blockchain serve as catalysts for transformation, extracting invaluable insights from geospatial data. By harnessing the power of artificial intelligence, immersive experiences, interconnected devices, and secure digital ledgers, we're able to extract insights from geospatial data like never before. By leveraging on geospatial data, AI and ML predicts outcomes, optimizing everything from crop yields to traffic flow. AR and VR immerses users in virtual landscapes, aiding urban planning and disaster preparedness. IoT monitors environmental conditions and infrastructure in real time. Blockchain secures geospatial data, fostering trust and transparency, ultimately adding tangible value to geospatial data across sectors for socio-economic growth. As we embrace the era of Geo-AI, AR and VR, IoT and blockchain, let's amplify the value of geospatial data and pave the way for a brighter, more sustainable future. Welcome one and all to an enlightening discourse ahead.
Indeed, welcome one and all. We will resume. I hope you all enjoyed a wonderful lunch and had made some good connections during the break and with the visit to the exhibition area. For me, it was a bit too short. We have more exhibitors than before, and visiting all of them is quite a task, but very rewarding, I must say. I skipped the lunch for that. But let's start. I think during the next session, more people will come in, but our speakers have so much to say that we should not wait any longer. So I'll start by introducing your moderator for this session. Her name is Rhonda Schrenk. Many of you know her. CEO of USGIF, the United States Geospatial Intelligence Foundation. She spearheads the strategic initiatives to foster collaboration among government, industry, and academia in advancing geospatial intelligence. With more than 25 years of experience, she's been pivotal in various leadership roles spanning NGA, NSA, CIA, the private sector, and academia. Please welcome her with a warm applause.
All right, good afternoon. Did you notice I was very careful not to fall up the stairs? All right, let's go ahead and bring my colleagues up to the stage. Deb, Miriam, and Sandra. And then I'm going to try to get you guys warmed up. Have a good lunch? Yes? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Sanjay's watching, all up, right? Okay, so with more than 25 years experience, and we're going to stop at more than 25. 10 years from now, I'm going to use more than 25. Way back in the beginning, I was a geographer. Who in the audience studied geography or something related to geography? Whoa, all right, I like that. When I was in college, I was a bartender. I don't know if you, Mark, did you know that? And I worked at the same place. It was a very friendly pub. The same people came, and during my senior year, some of the guys called me over and said, "Hey, Rhonda, what's your degree in?" And I was excited. They were taking an interest in me, and I said, "Geography." And they said, "Great," and they were so excited. So I went back, and I was doing my work, and I was like, wait, they seem too happy about that. I said, "Guys, why are you excited about geography? I need to know." And they said, "Because you're a great bartender, and with that kind of degree, you're going to be here forever." They were wrong. So the arc of my career, I was a GIS specialist, because we didn't really have the word geospatial in the very beginning, and then an imagery analyst, and currently I identify as a geo-inter. geospatial intelligence, and that's taking all of the bits and bytes and making sense of it, looking back, understanding today, and looking forward. And those bits and bytes and the automation of those bits and bytes and the combination of humans and machines are incredibly essential for us to keep up with today's demands that are increasingly moving from complicated to complex. Let's see, we're gonna have some audience participation, and it can be however you like it, right? Because I know that you just ate lunch. So we can have burpee competition. We were talking a little bit about yoga and push-ups. We can have hand raising, and you all got an A+ on that, and questions. I would love for you to engage with this amazing panel of ladies that are going to talk about technology and the human-machine dynamic. 4 themes I've heard over and over and over again this week. Collaboration, sense of community, that's 1, working together. 2, integration. 3, innovation. And 4, trust. When I was an imagery analyst, the way that we built trust was extensive training, really getting to know our tradecraft and what we were doing. Second, reliable sources. The data that you use to do your analysis needed to be reliable, and we needed to be able to trust in it. And 4th, transparent methodology. Today, as we're looking at artificial intelligence, machine learning, ChatGPT has burst onto the scene. I would say that those 3 characteristics remain the same. Rigorous training for those data sets, reliable data sets and information, as well as open and transparent technology. All right, so you've got a lot of Rhonda so far unplugged, and now we're gonna talk with our amazing panelists, and we're gonna do it our way, the way we normally do, and we're gonna sit together and have a conversation. So before I come over, since I'm already on this mic, I am going to introduce Sandra Achter. She is the director of NGA Denver, which is the lead for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency in the United States. And I am going to ask each of our panelists, starting with Sandra, to say a little bit about what they do, and then I have a different question for each of them. Following my 1 question for each of them, I will turn it over to you if you would like to join our conversation. If not, I have a bunch, but I'd love to hear from you. So, Sandra, you work at an intelligence agency, and you look at frontier technologies probably a little bit differently than industry. And NGA at this point in time is looking at the future of geospatial data and intelligence. And how are you embracing the integration of artificial intelligence? Easy ones, short one.
Right. Thank you, Rhonda, for the introduction. So as Rhonda said, I'm Sandra Achter, Director of NGA Denver. I've been in the geospatial business for a little over 24 years. We'll just keep it at that. Starting out as an analyst, as an imagery analyst like Rhonda, analyzing satellite imagery. And then I moved on to managing large teams of analysts doing the same thing. The job that I had previous to my current assignment is applicable for today. So I managed the teams that developed capabilities for future use, to include NGA Maven. So I stood up the organization that is now managing that program. So it's Geo and AI for our IC and DoD communities. So I think our agency is really embracing AI opportunities, including especially machine learning and computer vision. Our director, Admiral Whitworth, is really proud of the fact that NGA has operational control over the GEOINT lines of efforts related to NGA Maven. And Maven is the DoD's Pathfinder AI program. 80% of those lines of effort are related to GeoWind. So we've been able to leverage that program to automate dynamic collection and imagery exploitation. And we're working with our military to integrate AI into their workflows. And the effect of that is that we've been able to increase the fidelity of their targets and improve geolocation accuracy. As a leader in the community, we not only are responsible for sort of national security, but we have a humanitarian and civil mission areas as well. So for example, we worked with the National Ice Center to create automated charting of changes in the Arctic sea ice, which is enabling navigation and tracking climate change. We're also using AI/ML to map food and water sources and population migrations for patterns in climate vulnerable areas. So we're able to leverage AI and ML in both of those very disparate areas.
All right, fantastic. All right, my next colleague, Miriam Chaudhry, we met during COVID, believe it or not, during a small network event, and I have just grown to know and appreciate her very much. She is the president and CEO of XR2 Lead, one of the most consequential AI startups in the United States. So Miriam, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about you, your organization, and tell us a little bit how you're leveraging AI technologies in the defense and intelligence sector.
Well, first of all, is it on? First of all, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. So thank you for Sanjay for setting all this up and for Rhonda for the panel. It's good to be here. So I am Miriam Chaudhry, as Rhonda's mentioned. I run a startup on AI-based modeling and simulation. We basically cater to the defense, intelligence, and emergency response sector. However, we do work globally because we also cater to manufacturing sector and the utility sector. As we all know, AI, thank you, OpenAI and ChatGPT, AI has blown up in the past 2 years immensely. We finally figured out ways on how to use it and leverage it. And that's basically around what my company has been established, that while catering to the defense sector, we leverage these technologies and we help the warfighters. We help the emergency responders in every way we can. We do it through various technologies, for example, using AI and geospatial information for target recognition, for reconnaissance, for even if you send out drones, you need to know the locations. Then it's for training and development. It's AI-based training and development where it's focused on the learner. And again, all of this requires data. Then it comes into the realm of data security, data secrecy, data, accuracy. So there's a whole bunch of things that are interconnected and intermeshed in this area. So again, the technologies that fall under it is rapid decision-making, urban planning. It's also disaster response and management. As they say, one of the most famous quotes is location, location, location. So that is what geospatial industry is all about. You need to know when and where, what is happening to do anything, whether it's even if you want to go out and get some grocery. So I think that geospatial has really affects our lives in more ways than we can imagine. When we go out in our cars, what is the first thing we usually do after starting the car? We turn on the GPS and we see where we're going. So it's kind of like it's intermesh in everything that we're doing. And your question was how we're leveraging this AI in the geospatial. Since our focus is mostly in the defense sector and the intelligence sector, as you know, geospatial intelligence, data, and information is absolutely synonymous with defense sector. You need to know where your enemy is. You need to know where the bases are. You need to know about your terrain. You need to know about weather. You need to know about where everyone is situated. You need to know about your logistics. And I think that sums up that everything is about location. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. All right. And the last but certainly not least member of our panel is Deb Davis. She has been an executive leading big business in the private industry sector for, let's go with 25 plus years. And now I am the lucky recipient of all of that knowledge, as she is a board member to USGIF as well as OGC. So Deb, from your optic, can you talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now and talk to us about the trends that you see currently in the geospatial sector, as well as what's coming down the pike?
Yeah, thank you, Rhonda. I was going to go with the 25 years as well. Long time supporting the intelligence community, and now very privileged to work with Rhonda and also with the OGC board. Hopefully all of you saw Peter Rabley last night. We introduced our new CEO. If you haven't met him yet, please, he's going to be here all week, so please try to meet him. So I grew up on the IT side, the information technology side of the geospatial domain, and it's been really interesting to me to see how IT has gone in that 25 years from being an underpinning, almost an afterthought, you know, a little bit of storage and transport, but that's not really where the mission happened, to now, fast forward to now when IT and technology is at the core of the geospatial mission. And some of the, well, I'll say a lot of the trends that we've looked at on the private industry side have all been around the data. Miriam talked about the data, but the deluge of data, as we like to say. And AI/ML is critical in dealing with that deluge of data and enabling analysts, enabling users across lots of geospatial communities, and that's why I love these conferences, because we get out and we get to see all the different applications of geospatial, but allowing those analysts to triage the data and do the sense making of the data. Another aspect of that is changing data architectures, modernizing legacy systems, moving to an architecture of data platforms that puts the data where you need it and allows analysts and users to do the sense making where they need to do it. It also facilitates information sharing, and that's been something that's been on again, off again popular, but with world events is very important right now, and data architecture is critical to enabling that effectively. That also drives a real interest in data at the edge and capabilities at the edge. And I'll do a shout out to my alma mater, GDIT. If any of you were at either the GeoInc conference last week or the Soft Week conference last week, we had the Raven truck, and that is a mobile GeoInc command center. Hopefully you had a chance to see it, get inside it, and see what can be done at the pointy end, at the edge, for the warfighter, for humanitarian and disaster relief missions. Pretty cool stuff. And then the other thing I'll talk about is not technical, but it underpins everything, and that's people. And I'm a people person in the technology business. But without people, without skilled people, none of this technology helps, because we can't develop it, we can't train the models in an AI context, can't use it effectively, can't ask the right questions. And it's not just enough to understand AI/ML in a generic sense, it has to be in the geospatial context, because otherwise you don't develop it properly and ask the right questions. So I think that's a critical trend in technology, and that's people.
Fantastic. All right, it's like 7th inning stretch. You guys ready? How many of you are attending this conference for the first time? Raise your hand. Even on stage. All right, that was good participation. All right, ready for the... yeah, so did you see Sanjay? Quite a few. So on behalf of Sanjay, if I may, welcome. We are so glad you're here. And when I asked about being a part of this panel, I asked Sanjay if I could bring some new friends, colleagues with me, and I'm so glad that there's so many new faces. Get to know us, right? Reach out. If it looks like we're friends, we are, and we're friends through the community because it's such an amazing and tight-knit community. All right, next question to the audience. Who would like to ask the first question? All right, get warmed up. You ready? Sandra, back to you. So ethical AI is the topic, and I imagine that that is an important topic that is being discussed in the defense and intelligence sector for US government as well as worldwide. So can you tell me a little bit more about what NGA is doing around the topic of ethical AI?
So I neglected to mention, so I'll mention it now. So our director is not only the head of our agency, he is the functional manager for GEOINT, for the IC, the intelligence community, and for the DoD. So I think it's appropriate, that we lead in this area. We're not new to AI/ML. We've been leveraging it and using it for a long time now. Last year, the president signed Executive Order 14110. It's so sad that I have that memorized, but because you got to. And basically, it talks about having safe, trustworthy development and the use of AI. And so we're standing up a certification program related to that, right? And it's called GREAT. Isn't that a great acronym? It is the GEOINT Responsible AI Training Program, and it builds on our current Defense Department and IC guidance, but it's tailored to the unique challenges that we have right now with AI/ML. And so it governs all of the organizations, the individuals, and tools that leverage and use GEOINT AI, and it's designed to reflect our nation's values and to, when appropriate, mitigate civilian harm and to address the international laws of armed conflict. So that's a certification program that we're standing up, and it's part, I believe, of my director's role as a GEOINT functional manager. So he's looking at standards, certification, et cetera. And so for GEOINT AI, that falls neatly underneath that to make sure that we're leading in the community on how we use it ethically.
All right, so I'm gonna come right down the line. I'm calling an audible here, which you guys don't know, but now you do, to build on Sandra's response. So Miriam, can you give us some real-world examples of how we are using artificial intelligence to drive mission success, specifically in the defense and intelligence sector?
Absolutely. So like I mentioned before, data, building a little bit upon what she said, ethical AI. AI is all about, I'm going to go ahead and say it, AI does not really exist in the true sense. It's mostly machine learning. So first of all, getting the proper definitions of what these technologies are is the first step to reducing the fear of those things. Coming back to the data for its security, for privacy, and making sure that it's ethical, I'll just do a little bit of a plug here where I'm also the lead for an international conference on modeling and simulation for the defense sector, which is the largest of its kind. And we do something called the Black Swan event this year. And what a Black Swan event is that it has very low probability of happening, but if it does, it has a huge impact. For example, maybe an EMP or something like that. And in terms of the Black Swan, what this year we want to show people is that if all these new technologies keep progressing unchecked, what can happen? And that's coming back to ethical AI. It is imperative that when all these new technologies are coming out, we have rules, regulations, and safeguards that are around them. So again, for ethical AI, it comes all the way back to data. Do you have the right data? Do you have the right metrics? Do you have the right KPIs that you are measuring? And what is the security? Can anyone come into your into your databases and change your data, because that will totally change the outcome of everything you're using it for. So ethical AI and secure AI are some things we really, really need to focus on and concentrate on. Rhonda has asked some real-world examples of AI. It can fall into predictive analytics. You can actually look at patterns on how people are, I don't know, it could come up to human behavior. It can go to weather. It can go to terrain. It can cover a gambit of things. Then you can come down to the mechanical area, and you can see predictive analytics and maintenance for maybe your aircrafts, be it commercial or be it for the defense area. You can also have, like I said, the target recognition, actual active maps. You can have route recommendations. You can have, it's like everything you see in the movies right now. This is a time that it's becoming real. So coming back to ethical and secure AI, that is something that should be the foundation of all of these new technologies. Because in the defense sector, the security and making sure it's ethical is even more important than, I guess, in every industry it's important, but if you have just a split-second decision that you need to make, whether it's emergency response or defense sector, I think that making sure that you're making the right decision based on the right data is imperative and important.
Okay, thank you. I believe that we have a question from the audience. Young man in front.
Yes, thank you very much, Rhonda, I'm 55, so, but young at heart. My question is twofold. One is that with so much of technology around us, as a user organization, like Sandra is a user, and probably two of you are more of technology people. So much of technology around, how do we actually, as a user organization, keep pace with it and develop a 5-year plan on technology, direction and that's a challenge which I hear from all the users. There's so much happening. Second question is, yesterday Ron Jarman said about AI as a hype. And I hear many times the words like it can predict, it can do. So how far we are from it can to it does?
Sandra, do you want to start? And then I would love to hear Deb's response from private industry.
So I'm going to take the second question about the hype. So I resonated with that. Again, our agency's had a long history. It's been years for us to get to the point where we could start to manage a program looking at AI. But I do remember when we first started sort of diving into it, and I'm a user and manage other users. And we're just going to sprinkle a little AI on everything, right? and we found out very quickly that it's not always appropriate to use it for every single thing. Sometimes human cognition is quicker and more appropriate. And so we had to sort of take a step back and look at where it was appropriate to look at workflows so we could understand where we could apply this. We have the added challenge too of we want things faster, but we want them accurate as well. And so I was listening to some of what you were saying, Miriam, about sort of that provenance of the data and our responsibility to make sure that when you have algorithms that are working, when you're teaching the system, that you're able to go back and make sure that what you have in there is still accurate. And sometimes that was more important than sort of the bright, new, shiny thing. So I do think that we're in a better place now than we were maybe 5-6 years ago, where it's a buzzword, everybody wants to use it, and it's a way to get business, frankly, as well. But I think for agencies that have been sort of looking at it for a long time, we're doing a much better job of sort of focusing on where it's most appropriate.
And I think Miriam, to pick up on your point too, it is more about machine learning in a lot of ways and kind of what is feeding the algorithms, training the data. From an industry perspective and working with Sandra, who's been one of our esteemed clients for a long time, there's definitely that desire for innovation, desire to bring in those AI capabilities. I think it's a cautious integration, a responsible integration, and it has to be because the data has to be right. We think of ChatGPT and synthetic content as being a problem for data provenance. I just actually wanted to mention I had a really interesting conversation with Rendered AI earlier on a break, and they are doing synthetic data, and I won't try to speak for them, but they're doing synthetic data that is machine generated and actually is a good thing versus some of the things that we worry about in data provenance. So I think that's interesting to note and maybe to check out. But one of the things that we're seeing on the industry side in terms of acquisition and in support of this innovation is, it used to be that industry waited for an RFP to come out, wrote a solution, submitted it, and then built it under contract. Now the government expects industry, and industry is responding, to innovate and demonstrate capabilities. And then the government will decide what is going to work and what is going to be integratable into the environment in a responsible way and an effective way. And they're also expecting industry to come in partnerships. We've always had kind of prime and subcontractor relationships, and the prime does all the talking, but government is looking for us to partner and come together, bring all of our best minds and capabilities together as partners to help the government accelerate innovation. And also a huge push on bringing commercial capabilities in. It used to be that the government built their capabilities. Now they're looking to buy where they can and only make if they must. So a lot of changes there. NJ recently, and Sandra will know more about this than I, but I do want to mention it because it's interesting. Recently released, last week in fact, the NGA CSO, Commercial Solutions Opening. And this is going to be a series of rapid pilots that can then result in one or more contract awards. So again, innovating ahead of that contract. So industry is investing to be positioned for that.
So, and I want to jump in there. So for me, it's not hype, right? So I gave you the 25-year plus thing. Sandra and I both were those imagery analysts that were hugging our light tables when they drug them away from us as imagery became digital. 10 years ago, what were we all saying? Cloud, cloud, cloud. 5 years ago, AI, AI, AI. For those who do not embrace automation with the deluge of data, they're just going to be left behind. And really, what I anticipate will be on this stage a lot next year is compute, compute, compute. In order to keep up, we are embracing quantum technologies. We must embrace compute technologies in order to process the data, to make sense of it, because if we don't, our adversaries will. And the global stage is a little complex these days. All right. Yes, ma'am.
So to answer the question that Sanjay posed, how do you keep up with the pace? I think it'll depend on the use case. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that sometimes AI, or whatever the result the AI is going to give you, actually increases the load on cognition of the user. I know I keep giving the example of rapid response for route recommendation, but the project we did was basically for helicopter pilots and for aircraft, for military aircraft. As you know, if you've ever seen the cockpit of a helicopter or an airplane, there's already so many buttons and gadgets going on. And if you have some AI that's now barking some other stuff to you, that increases the cognitive load. So one thing that you need to keep in mind when dealing with any kind of new technology is the human being. Like Deb said, don't use it just because it's a shiny new thing. Look at the use case and look at how it can actually help the human and reduce cognitive load on the human and actually augment the human capabilities. Because AI and ML, they're great. They're not replacements for human beings. They are an augmentation for human beings.
And also the paradox of the deluge of data, we're using AI, ML to deal with that, and that will in turn produce a huge amount more data.
And a lot of people say data is the new gold. I kind of, again, this is my own opinion, I don't agree with that. I don't think that data is the new oil or the new gold. I think that what you extract, the information, the insights, the decision-making results that you extract from that data, that is the crux. Otherwise, for data, there's a whole bunch of places where you're just collecting data and you're not doing anything with it. So that data
The information that's gold, right?
It's the information that's gold.
All right. Good, panelists. Audience, any other questions? One in the back? The microphones are right up here. And back there too? Up here.
The mic works. Hello, Rhonda. I'm
Hello.
Hugo de Groof. I'm a formal official of the European Commission working on environmental policies. But before, and I'm going to make you happy, I was also a geographer and an informatician. And already in '84, we had artificial intelligence courses when studying informatics. And of course, when later on in the Joint Research Center, we worked a lot with artificial intelligence in the 90s, and indeed, we've seen now an explosion. But I have a question about the use cases, because I heard a lot of talk about the use case, and they mainly relate to military actions, security. Now, a couple of years ago, I was working in DG Environment on a program on environmental compliance assurance. Let me explain you just briefly what it is to frame the question. A lot of our legislation, and it's a very comprehensive package, is poorly implemented, and it's extremely difficult to verify and inspect. It's also very difficult to make the duty holders aware of the obligations that they face, be it farmers, industries, whatsoever. Secondly, it's very difficult to validate and to inspect all these facilities or to see if all the treaties and legislation and the targets that we have agreed upon are being met. And thirdly, when there are illegal actions undertaken, such as illegal logging, illegal fishery, dumping waste on sea, wherever, right? It all becomes a case for the courts. Now, what the European Commission did was establishing a high-level forum in which we brought together judges, prosecutors, Interpol, police forces, and so on. And my job was to introduce in the program that we were discussing with them, GeoInt. And when I proposed that, they said, Hugo, are you becoming a spy or what? And I said, no, because the geospatial intelligence paradigm, where we combine all the different sources of intelligence from imagery, communication, signal, open source, can help us tremendously in informing better the duty holders, supporting the police forces, the inspectors' verification, and finally, the evidence that needs to be brought to court. Now, of course, AI is a great tool for doing that. The problem lies, of course, in the fact that, as we said before, there's a lot of manipulation possible. And machine learning is just a lower level of AI, let's face it. What I learned in the process of that program was that the verifiers, the prosecutors, the police forces, they were not equipped with the tools that makes information actionable. They didn't have the means. They couldn't bring it together. And of course, as a consequence, implementation suffers. Now, my question to you is, if you have already supported within the US or elsewhere activities which are related to supporting environmental compliance assurance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone want to take an initial stab? Deb, do you want to?
I don't want to address that whole thing.
Yes.
But I did notice that the NGA CSO, the problem set, the challenge for that is illegal fishing. So definitely something top of mind.
I don't want to address all of it either. But I think what I hear you saying is that the underlying issue is that we introduce these new technologies and we don't always think of the end user and how they're receiving this data and how they're understanding what it is that they have to even know if what they're doing is legal or not. And as an analyst, that is something that I care very deeply about. So we have all of these things happening on the front end, and I'm like, okay, so for the human that this is supposed to enable, eventually, if you're supposed to be able to go back and see how this information was collected, and you know what those end results are, how are they receiving it? Do we talk to the folks that are getting this data at the end to understand what it is that they have? That is something that, in terms of commercial services, it's not something the government is doing, I would say, a very good job of really understanding, and that's where we need to partner with our industry partners in order for us to be able to marry those together. That's what I got out of part of that, the question.
I agree, right? So you're a wonderful advocate for geospatial intelligence, and yes, GeoInt has been a major driver in checking, fact checking. Is this happening? Compliance checking. As a former analyst, it's also near and dear to my heart. So how do we prepare that workforce? I'm going to come to Deb for that. And then we will come back and wrap up because our time is almost out. So Deb, I know that the workforce is near and dear to your heart. Do you have a couple of words you'd like to share with us on that?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's my passion. And I do want to speak specifically about the city of St. Louis in the United States. I've been very involved with talent development in St. Louis. It is Geospatial Center of Excellence in the United States. And I know Tracy Welpley is here, right there in the middle, from Greater St. Louis, Inc., and Nadine Alame, who leads Taylor Geospatial Institute, I know is here. We are working with the schools, working with the universities to develop the talent that's needed. And I know this is happening in other cities, but I have a passion for St. Louis, so I did just want to mention that. Thank you, Rhonda.
All right, I love it. And at USGIF, I started to United States Geospatial Intelligence Foundation, founded in the US and a global organization. This has been a 2-week collaboration, started last week in Orlando with many of our closest GeoInt friends, and several of us are here this week. As we are trying to bring our next workforce along, some of them are bringing us along, right? I saw a dinosaur sign and I was like, oh, maybe. We come to events like this and we learn. We listen to the speakers on the stage. We walk around and see the demonstrations on the floor, because every time I go to an event, there's at least once on the floor and up here on the stage. So I am going to turn to my esteemed colleagues, panelists, and dear friends and give each the opportunity for 30-second wrap-up. Miriam, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay.
Sandra, and then we'll conclude with Deb.
So I think that one thing that you can all walk away with is to know that whether or not you're ready or not, it's coming. It's just how you use it and what the use case, I guess, is. So being prepared for that. And one of the things that I would like to say is that this is also a motivation for your capability and capacity building, that women can see that other women are succeeding in this area and they can too.
Love that. Very quickly, I say this all the time, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. All apologies to my humenters and SIGinters out there, but GeoInt is the foundational int. It is. You have to know where you are in space and time. And that's what, is here. I think for all, industries, it is something that's absolutely critical, whether you call it geospatial or not. I think for AI and ML, it's absolutely foundational. So that's what I want to end with. Thanks.
And I want to go back to something that Miriam just said casually when we opened. Location, location, location. It's been a phrase in real estate forever, right? Yet we don't all in society have an appreciation for how pervasive geospatial is and how pervasive it should be. And it's a domain that we need people in talent development. We need people to be savvy around and have expertise around in order to take advantage of these capabilities. So location, location, location.
All right, let's give these amazing women a round of applause.